Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I'm your host, W.J. Sheehan. Hello, everybody, and thank you once again for joining us for this great podcast. I am W.J. Sheehan, author of the series Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters, available in paperback, ebook, and in the KDP lending library at Amazon.com. With 4 of the 7 volumes also in audiobook at Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. Now listen up. Christmas is just around the bend, and these would make a great and conversational gift for somebody you know at home or in the office. So do partake of a purchase. And as many of you already know, the first segment of our show is aptly named Cryptids in the News and Other Oddities. And today, I believe Kevin is stacking his chips in the Other Oddities corner of the podcasting table. I have many and varied interests when it comes to the strange and unusual, and I believe that many of you do as well. So let me introduce my brother Kevin, and let's just see what he has up his sleeve for this episode. Kevin, come on board, brother.
Woohoo!
How you doing, bro? I'm doing good. I've just had my new eyeglasses sized up today.
Nice.
So I'm going to be 4 eyes for another year.
Excellent. I'm still a little blurry because I don't get mine until the end of the month.
Yes. So I tell you what, I told the doctor today, I says, something wasn't quite right with this pair. And I kept saying to myself, I'm going to go back. Well, here I am a year later and still wearing them.
Yeah, the time goes by fast for sure.
It really does. And today they had something new, like a blue light filter. They're offering this blue light filter, which he said is excellent for me being on the computer so much. He said the blue light is the most damaging.
Does it allow you to see Bigfoot better in a low light situation?
I don't know. I hope it doesn't filter out red eyes.
Maybe a Mothman flying by?
Yeah, well, you never know. And
Only if you're in a graveyard.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just, I don't know if they're trying to hit you with a sales pitch when you go there, but I'd like to think the doctor's trying to steer you down the right road,
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to not be a little suspicious.
Yeah. Every time I walk in there, they're hitting me for a hundy or a 200, And meanwhile, everything's supposed to be included in my plan when I walk in the door.
I know.
So what do you got, bro? I think you got something cool for us.
Yeah, we are going to some new territory for the podcast. So normally we're talking about the big hairy man, even in the oddities segment, although, we have covered some other things like Dog Man and Mothman, etc. But today we're going to talk about good old-fashioned UFOs.
Ah, cool. I love UFOs.
And not the Bigfoot variety.
Hey, I wonder if Bigfoot's capable of flying a UFO.
That's a good question.
How about that Chewbacca cat in the Star Wars?
There you go. Yeah, so this one, this is an old encounter, but it was in the news very recently in a great article. I would encourage folks to go out and read on November 12th, 2019, Popular Mechanics, and the author is Tim McMillan, put out an article about the infamous Nimitz encounter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know that one, Bill?
That's the one involving the what they called the Tic Tac?
Exactly, the Tic Tac.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's incredible, and they have a really thorough documentation of it, which originally happened back around November 10th. Actually, I'll go into it here, but between November 10th and November 16th of 2004. And then it was disclosed in December 2017 by the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, which is kind of the long-winded name of a group formed by the former Blink-182 lead singer. And he published a 1 minute and 16-second clip on YouTube and the New York Times that featured footage from the advanced targeting, forward-looking infrared system from some F-18s from the Nimitz carrier, where they were out chasing this thing.
Yeah.
Super cool. And you, by the way, I'll put the link on our website to both the article and the YouTube video in case folks haven't seen it, or if they haven't seen it in a while, they can go into it.
Yeah, Kevin, and as you start digging into this, this is just one event that somehow got loose.
Exactly.
Can you imagine in your mind, if you let your imagination wander for a little while, just how many of such events such as this have actually happened that we know nothing about?
So this one struck close to home for me because, it happened in November 2004, right off the coast of Southern California. And I don't know if you remember, Bill, but I had to go back and look at the date. But it was November 2015 when I saw that wild thing, UFO off the coast in L.A., while I was standing on a cliff with like 50 other people that I work with. We saw this UFO for a period of like 15 minutes. I videotaped it. I took pictures of it, and it was right off the coast of Los Angeles. It filled up half of the sky, again, for 15, 20 minutes. And no one said anything about what this was until like 48 hours later. They said, oh, yeah, we were testing a ICBM, off of a submarine or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'm not a real skeptic of what the government says compared to some. And I was like, are you kidding me? Why the heck would you test something at 8 o'clock at night off of Los Angeles and not announce it?
Yeah, it seems really odd.
That's very odd, right? So
yeah.
So this is the same exact time of year, only 10 years earlier. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at this again.
Yeah. And that area over there, the coast of California, particularly like the northernmost section of California, I guess from like mid-state northward, is just rife with UFO activity.
Yeah, and this was down south, so it was between San Diego and Los Angeles, so two very populous places.
Yeah.
And again, Friday night, Bill, really at 8 o'clock, you're going to test something that's controversial? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're going to test something, why not do it during the daytime? Why during the night when the sky's going to light up?
Why not light up half of the sky?
Yeah, scared of people out of their shorts.
Well, and that was it. We were all we were all there together, and it was frightening. I'll put some of the pictures I took with my iPhone up on the website too. So, of course, this is a completely different encounter.
Right.
So this is in 2004, and I'm going to read you what they call the executive summary that, comes out. It's the unofficial executive summary of the Nimitz encounter that was also published in Popular Mechanics. So I'm going to read you this. It's pretty short, but it's a good summary, and then we can get into different aspects of it.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So they say during the period of approximately the 10th to the 16th of November in 2004, the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was operating off the western coast of the United States in preparation for their deployment to the Arabian Sea. The USS Princeton, on several occasions, detected multiple anomalous aerial vehicles, or AAVS, I guess kind of like UFOs, operating in and around the vicinity of the Carrier Strike Group. the AAVs would descend very rapidly from approximately 60,000 feet to approximately 50 feet in a matter of seconds. They would then hover or stay stationary on the radar for a short time and depart at high velocities and turning rates. And then on November 14th, after again detecting the AAVs, the USS Princeton took the opportunity of having a flight of 2 FA-18 fighters returning from a training mission to further investigate the AAVs, or UFOs. The USS Princeton took over control of the FA-18s from the E-2C. You remember them, Bill, those Grumman turboprops with the big disc on the top.
Yeah, Dad used to call them the sub-hunters.
Exactly. And vectored the FA-18s for intercept, leading to visual contact approximately 1 mile away from the AAV. So they flew them over till they were about a mile away from these things, which was reported to be an elongated egg or a tic-tac shape, like the breath mint, tic-tac.
Yeah.
With a discernible midline horizontal axis. It was solid white, smooth with no edges. It was uniformly colored with no nacelles, pylons, or wings. It was approximately 46 feet in length. And the FA-18's radar could not obtain a lock on the AAV. However, it could be tracked while stationary and at lower speeds with the forward-looking infrared radar. So it's kind of weird. Like the regular radar couldn't see these things, but they could see it with the FLIR.
Now, I'm wondering, though, and this is really what our stealth technology is all about.
Absolutely.
Giving that silhouette where the radar can't come back.
Yeah, it just absorbs the radar waves.
So it's very interesting. Now, the FA-18, isn't that the Hornet?
That's the Hornet, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And that's a high-speed aircraft.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's well along with the technology as far as whatever's available, they've got it on board.
Oh, they got everything. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So super cool. They're there, and they're tracking it. This video, the gun camera video from the Hornets, the FA-18s, they're up online. You can see them clear as day. You see one of these things, that they call a tic-tac, looks like a tic-tac, and you hear the pilots talking about it, and this is all released now. And it's just crazy, absolutely crazy that this was all there. All this footage is available.
One of the most remarkable things is, and they had a show on this a number of weeks ago. I don't know if you caught any of those episodes. They had a guy on there that was a former, I believe he was a Navy intelligence officer. They also had the radar guy, one of the chief radar officers or crewmen that I believe was on that boat you mentioned. Both of them talking frankly and openly about what was seen, what was known about it, and what could be done about it. And it was really an eye-opener as they spoke about these craft coming from, as you said, 60,000 feet right down onto the deck in a matter of seconds. And then the planes were chasing it along the surface of the water. And this thing was moving at a ridiculous amount of speed over the waves. And they couldn't get it, no matter what they did, no matter how they tried to turn on it, to draw a bead on it with the radar, to get a look at it. This thing was just outmaneuvering them in ways that are not humanly known.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, high rate of speed, high altitude, 80,000 feet, pretty darn high. And then down to 50 feet. 50 feet above the water, and they said doing about 100 knots.
Wow.
So probably 120 miles an hour, which is just crazy. And they get into it, they talk about it. So probably the folks you saw on television are some of the same folks that are interviewed in this article, because they're all, the cool thing about the article is pretty much everyone that's interviewed was there in that battle group.
Yeah,
and they're decorated veterans, et cetera. But they talk about in the beginning, they were getting ready to deploy, like I mentioned, and they were trying out a bunch of new systems. And they talk about one of them called the Spy 1 Bravo radar, whatever that was. And so they were out there trying to get the kinks out of this thing. And then all of a sudden, they're talking and they're saying, well, we got all these what they call ghost tracks and clutter on the radar. And they're like, what is this stuff? It doesn't look real, right? Because there's so much of it and it's moving so slowly and it's completely unidentifiable. And then they try to do the radar cross section of everything that they're seeing, and it doesn't match any known aircraft.
Yeah.
And then also to complicate that, they weren't, squawking any identification, of either being friend or foe, whatever they are. There was nothing being emitted from them in terms of a signal to let people know, who they were or who they were with.
Right, and that immediately will stir things up in the fleet, in the task force.
Absolutely.
The other thing was a lot of these craft were flying in formation.
Yes. So they're looking at this system and they're like, hey, wait a minute. And they know they're using this new system. So they basically talk about the fact that, in my words, not theirs, but they reboot everything, like, hey, maybe there's something wrong. New system. What the heck is this stuff? And they reboot it, and then it comes back and it's clearer than ever, showing the same thing.
Yeah.
So completely wild.
Yeah, and it's not, they knew at that point, this is not an anomaly. We have some type of objects here that could very well be a threat.
Oh, yeah. And they were saying that they were appearing in groups of 5 to 10 together, very closely spaced.
Yeah.
So like you said, almost looking like squadrons,
Yeah, we're talking about here, too, the elite task force militarily on the face of the globe. They're encountering these things, and they frankly don't know what to do or say about it. And by the way, a couple of pilots came forward. I hope they didn't lose their jobs, because I think it's high time for people to allow these highly skilled and highly trained and highly dedicated and brave people in our armed forces to speak out about concerns they have, and in this case, concerns over something that could very well threaten their lives. I mean, had these things been able to, or had a desire to attack, they would have been up the creek without a paddle.
Absolutely,
because,
yeah.
Kev, you know from all the flying and everything else, in any kind of dogfight, position and angle of attack and to be able to get behind your opponent is the key objective.
Oh, and no doubt about it.
Yeah. Usually the first dog that gets into your butt is going to have you for dinner.
Especially in this day and age of what they're talking about, right? So,
oh, yeah.
And that's the other thing, Bill. So they're off of Southern California. They're not in a battle situation. They have the best technology, right? Everything from aircraft to radar, crew, right? All the personnel, the best in the world. And they're all seeing this, again, over a period of days. So not for 35 seconds or something like that. They saw it over a period of days. There's a lot of documentation on it, a lot of videotape of it. So pretty spectacular.
Yeah, no, it's just, Kev, and in addition to the aerial phenomena going on around the world, and in reference to this Nimitz task force, that coastal area has been it's been reported over there on numerous occasions of what they call what do they call them now? USOs, unidentified submerged or submersible objects.
Okay.
They have had many sightings over there of spacecraft or UFOs diving into the water, glowing on the surface of the water, and coming out of the water. And there were also reports being brought to the table as far back as in the 80s and the 90s that I can recall of a variety of ships tracking things moving under them at incredible rates of speed.
Super cool.
Now, now, could we have subs that can move, a couple of 100 miles an hour underwater? I don't know.
Who knows?
Maybe we do and maybe we don't. But if it's not ours, what could possibly move at hundreds of miles an hour under the surface of the ocean? And what could just... You remember the old Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea show?
Oh, yeah.
Remember when they used to take that cool flying sub out?
Yeah, that little flying saucer thing that would take off.
Yeah, and they'd show that thing breaking the surface and doing like a little quick dance before it lifted off, or when it came in, it would kind of hit hard, and the water would splash, and then they'd show it floating around. Of course, that was all sci-fi.
Yep.
But if you think of the reality of having to nose something in at a high rate of speed and survive, not only the occupants survive, but the hull and the structure of that thing being able to survive repeated operations like this, it's kind of hard to believe.
No doubt.
You would think the structure of anything, I don't care how you build it, it's pretty much a one-time deal. If you went in hard, you probably wouldn't be using that craft again,
No, definitely. So we'll have to do some stuff on that. But this article, again, check it out in Popular Mechanics to our listeners, and I'll put some of the images up there, and then I'll put my images up of the photographs that I took. Back in 2015 in the same region. And again, like I until I saw that day with a bunch of folks, standing outside of a resort in Southern California. So it wasn't like we were camping in the forest or something. We're standing there looking at this thing, and we looked at it for about 25 minutes. And I remember like we were laughing about it and stuff, but at the same time, I was looking at Twitter and Google to try and see what the heck are we looking at.
Yeah.
And it made no sound, and it was there. It filled up half of the horizon,
Wow.
basically from the horizon halfway up to the vertical.
Right.
This burst of light, just unbelievable, out over the ocean.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes is a long time.
Oh, it was amazing, Bill. I mean, absolutely amazing. And this look at this. This is over a 4-day period, this sighting.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's just incredible. And you know me with the UFOs, I'm full on. I know they're real. I know what I've seen.
Right.
But I don't need anybody to convince me any further. And it's the same way that I feel about Bigfoot, having not even seen one of them.
Right.
I'm on board with the reality of what others have seen.
Right.
I mean, you have a couple of Navy pilots telling you that they were tracking and looking at this Tic Tac in particular, and then the formations after having rebooted their computers appearing on the screen. Do you need something else?
Well, and by the way, just to go further, this is the Navy pilots. This is also like the airborne radar operators, the ship, the battle group radar operators. Everyone is seeing this. And then other folks on deck are looking at it through high-powered binoculars.
Yeah.
So it's not like one or two people.
No, it's damn near everybody.
Right.
What do you say about that? We're all hallucinating?
Exactly.
I mean, hands to the sky, I give up.
I know.
Wow.
So that's the episode this week for cryptids and oddities.
Yeah, no, that's excellent stuff, And folks, usually it's the case where I don't know really what my brother's talking about per se. I mean, I still didn't know what you were going to say today. All I knew was it was a UFO encounter. And but I said to my brother, I am sure a lot of the Bigfoot community, speaking for myself in particular, has interest in a lot of strange activity that's going on out there. And
and this one was just in the news, so again, November 12th, 2019 in Popular Mechanics, this article. So check it out. And thanks to Tim McMillan to putting this together.
Fantastic work, Jeff.
Cool. So,
now, you know what?
Yeah, what do you got this week, Bill?
Well, in the spirit of other oddities, as you were talking, I had prepared something entirely different. And I don't know why. As you were talking, I just drummed up a little something on our friend, the Rougaroo. So I thought to myself, well, Kev's into this other oddities hook, line, and sinker today. And I thought to myself, what could ice the oddity cake but a little story of the Rougaroo? So here we go. This is really quite the tale, as you're about to hear. It was brought to my attention by a guy named Terry Philbin, a resident of all places, Louisiana.
Rougaroo country.
Yeah, I mean, here you go. And this is what he had to say about a sighting he had in October of 1979. He said that 2 years prior to the day of this sighting, he had met his wife-to-be at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Mary Beth and I had both signed up for the Air National Guard from 2 different points of the compass and had first met in a Sunday church service on the base. It was love at first sight for both of us, and we actually only saw each other a handful of times while on the base, and then I headed back north and she headed back east to Louisiana, her home state. We stayed in touch, and I made several trips down to her home, where on the last trip I had proposed to her, and she said yes. So there's a little bit of a love story here.
Yeah, love story with Rougaroo. I mean, you can't beat that.
Where do I begin to tell a story of a... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't know Frank Sinatra was here with me. What do you mean he's not? I'll crack the jokes around here, see? Speaking for myself, I had no real anchor around my leg, keeping me in Pennsylvania. She, on the other hand, had an extensive family and a little girl that she had out of wedlock when she was 15. The family was really tight, and the mother and grandma looked after little Julia while Mary Beth was doing the guard thing. I had decided to move down south with them and make a go of it locally. Anywhere that Mary Beth was, I was happy to be. Things were working out really well. I had scored a job with a local utility company that actually paid real decent compared to the going wages in the area. According to what I was used to, this was a depressed area, but the people didn't even know it, and they were happy. I'm sure that there is more than one life lesson wrapped up in that statement somewhere. At any rate, their family had several homes scattered in a small area, and all of them were built on stilts in case of flooding. The reason why I mention this will come into play later on. Mary Beth, Julia, and I had taken over one of the homes as our own, which was really gracious of the family. There was 0 mortgage and 0 rent, which was quite a way to start off a marriage. Now, the stilts on this house were about 6 feet tall. There was a well-built staircase that came up alongside of the house, which brought you right into the kitchen. Facing the front of the house were 2 rooms side by side, with a half wall dividing them. The room to the left was the dining room, which was connected to the kitchen by a pass-through window for serving food. And the room on the right was a den. Both the dining room and the den had a large picture window on the front wall of the house that actually faced the road. There were houses across the street from us as well as on both sides, and to the rear of this house was a dense forest that became really boggy as you walked into it. So he's really trying to give us the lay of the land here. And you're going to understand why in a minute with the windows on the front of the house and the house being up on the stilts.
Yeah.
You're going to get a feel in a minute, or you're going to understand more fully what happens here. So he was told by some of the family and the locals that there was stuff in those woods that you didn't want to meet up with, even when the sun was shining. So he said that he had taken the message at the time with a grain of salt, knowing that these folk were a little bit different than he had been accustomed to in the way that they lived and the things that they said. Well, the three of us were in this house for several months, and on more than one occasion, Julia had called for Mary Beth during the night. On several of these nights, Julia had come to sleep with us, and when I asked her what she saw, she said, a big dog. When I asked her what she meant, she said a big dog was smiling at her through the window and she didn't like him.
That's not good.
Yeah. And as I said, the same thing had occurred on a number of nights spaced out over several months. So it wasn't like every night she just wanted to sleep with us. Now, this house was built on a lot that had an angled grade to it. The side of the house that Julia's bedroom was on only had about 4 feet of exposed stilt, whereas on the other side of the house there was a full 6 feet of the exposed timbers. I don't know why, but one day I was out next to the house and I grabbed a 5-foot-long rake. I held the rake up to the house under Julia's bedroom window. As a rough estimate, it was about 7 feet or so to the bottom of her window and about 10 to the top. I remember chuckling to myself and saying, now that's a serious dog, and I blew it off. I remember the day as if it was yesterday, being the 9th of October. Mary Beth was in the kitchen baking some corn muffins while Julia and I were in the den. I was sitting in an easy chair watching the tube, and Julia was playing with some toys on the floor in front of me. I must remind you that this side of the house was facing the street and not the woods. There was a fierce rainstorm raging outside, and the power had flickered on and off several times, and then it went off for good. We lit some candles, and thankfully Mary Beth didn't lose the muffins because we had a gas oven. It was 7:30 p.m. and the lightning and thunder started to come rolling in. It was so loud and frequent that Julia had jumped onto my lap. I couldn't blame her because it was even freaking me out, so much that I was wishing that I could jump into someone's lap myself. I was looking down at a book with this nice pedestal candle burning next to me, and every time the lightning flashed, the entire picture window in front of me lit up. On one of the flashes, I swore that I saw the silhouette of something large in the window, and then it went dark. I was now looking straight at the glass, but it was black. No sooner had my eyes got accustomed to the dark than another lightning flash lit up the window, and there it was. The upper body of a large creature with pointy ears sticking up like a wolf's.
Whoa.
Yeah. I didn't want to scare anybody, but suddenly I was a believer in Julia's story. I told Julia to go by Mommy because I had to see something, and so she did. I put my face right up against the glass. And as I did, I distinctly saw something dart off to the side of the house. I walked down the hall to Julia's window and looked out, but I saw nothing. Mind you, it was very dark and the power was out. I then went to the rear of the house looking out towards the woods and saw nothing there as well. About 10 o'clock, the power came back on and the storm was gone. I told Mary Beth I was going out to my car for my smokes, and I grabbed a flashlight. I went down the stairs and headed straight for the front of the house to where the window was that I had seen this creature. I needed affirmation that I wasn't hallucinating or something. But I knew what I had seen, and it wasn't a reflection. As I shone the light on the ground, there are a number of very large and very long, oddly shaped footprints in the soggy soil. They were very narrow at the heel and very broad at the toes, of which there were 4. That's right, there were 4 toes on each print, and the feet were almost 20 inches long, being sunk into the ground a good 2 inches. I looked around with the light and saw nothing. It was at that very moment that my neighbor Clyde pulled in with his truck, his house being less than 30 feet away from mine. When he jumped out, he said, "Is everything all right?" And I said to him, "You ought to come over here and have a look at this." I told him what happened as we both stood there looking at the prints, and he said to me, "Sweet Lord Jesus, what you've got there, boy, are the footprints of a Rougaroo." Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said, "I never thought in all of my days that I would ever set eyes on them, and here they are." I said to him, "What the hell is a Rougaroo?" He told me, "In these parts, it's known as a wolf man from hell, and you sure don't want to mess with them, no way, no how." From what I saw in the lightning flashes, this thing was halfway up the picture window, and its shoulders looked to be 4 feet across. I could definitely see tall, pointy ears that stuck straight up like they were pinned. The weirdest thing were these 4-toed hoof prints that it had left, being under the window. To this day, I never go in the woods behind our home unless I am armed for bear, or in this case, armed for Rougaroo, whichever comes first.
All right, but I got one question. He's there in this storm.
Yeah.
The kid has seen this thing multiple times. He sees it. Electricity's out. He wants to go have a smoke. And did you say he grabbed his flashlight or he grabbed his Mac 10 with the laser sighting? I mean, who the heck is going outside with a flashlight?
Yeah, well, how many people that we talk to on this show take my warning of carrying more gun than they think they're going to need?
I know, but you just saw this thing outside your window after other people had said it, and there's no power in the house, and it's thundering and lightning out, and then you start to see the footprints, and you're like talking to your neighbor? I mean, come on, it's time to reload.
Yeah, maybe he should have took some corn muffins outside.
Yeah, why not grab a handful of corn muffins? You know. I would probably not put my shoes on either, you know, just so I couldn't run effectively. I mean, come on. Bring a weapon with you.
Yeah.
Or 2.
You know, it takes all kinds.
I mean, you're in Louisiana, too. It's not like they're not armed, Bill. I mean, I think they go out to get the newspaper with a sawed off.
Sorry, our listeners in Louisiana.
I mean it as a compliment. You know.
Yeah. I wish I could take a sawed off out to the mailbox. Somebody would probably take me away in chrome if I did so.
Watch out for the gators, if nothing else.
Well, I'll tell you, the Bigfoot phenomena freaks me out, but there's something down and dirty about the Rougaroo dogman thing.
Absolutely. I mean, you've said it before, but to me, the Bigfoot is terrifying, like some of these accounts have said, where you're seeing something that you've been taught your whole life you shouldn't see. Yeah. But when you see a Rougaroo, dog man, you're like, okay, no one ever said I shouldn't see this, but they did tell me if I do see this, I'm probably going to die,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you see a wolf man, you're like, oh, this never ends well.
Yeah, no, it's just, and when I think of the dog man, I probably said this before, but it's just the way my mind works. You remember the old Wolfman movies, the black and white?
Yeah.
Where Lon Chaney he'd always peek out the curtain, and you knew he shouldn't, but he'd always peek through the curtain and see the full moon, and then the action began, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think of this, nasty, toothed, clawed, ruthless, vicious beast, tearing into somebody. You know what I mean? It's just
and it's the pure evil nature, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the Wolfman. You're talking about Dracula. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody ever talks about the Rougaroo going into an orchard and picking apples. You know what I'm saying? I mean, our buddy the Bigfoot, trying to catch a fish, grabbing fruit, maybe robbing some nests, going into the cornfields,
taking
perhaps.
some eggs out of a bird's nest, not the
whatever.
Rougaroo.
I mean, the Rougaroo is like, nah, I'm just gonna rip your guts out and have a little Thanksgiving feast of my own right here.
Well, that's a crazy account.
Yeah. Well, I hope that brought a little life into the oddities segment of our show.
You gotta love the Rougaroo. I mean, just pure evil, giant, half man, half wolf, stalking people. Whoa. Awful.
Yeah. And a lot of people that report on the Rougaroo, and I got a few of these accounts, they talk about this thing charging them and aggressively coming at them or showing aggression.
Yeah.
It's not that way with the Bigfoot on all occasions.
No.
A lot of Bigfoot encounters are just walking by, turning and looking, retreating into the woods. It's generally not an attack on a person or signs of real aggressiveness towards people,
No, well, how about at the beginning of this account where, you read how the little girl said that it was in the window smiling at her, but she didn't like it, however she put it. I mean, you know what that was. It was like snarling at her, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's calling it a smile but this thing is like...
see its teeth.
Yeah, curling up its jowls like,
nice.
I wish I could snap you right now.
Exactly. If this glass wasn't between us.
Yeah.
Come on out with your flashlight.
Yeah, come on out with your flashlight. I'm waiting for you. Oh, my God.
Yikes.
Well, so that's pretty much a wrap. And what do we have, Kevin, line for us with our listeners today?
We got some good listener
in?
mail. So we're going to go out to the center of the United States, to Julie in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Yeah, she says, thanks for the wonderful podcast. I'm still catching up on your previous episodes. My brother said that he saw a Bigfoot walking a riverbank in Wyoming in the late 90s. I guess these creatures have been around for a very long time. What are your thoughts? Great show. So first off, we got to get her brother to write in and tell us a little bit more about this Bigfoot walking on the riverbank in Wyoming.
Yeah, very interesting. And once again, the association between Bigfoot and a body of water.
Yes.
This is
always along a lake or a riverbank, right?
Yeah. So they're either pathways or trailways or places of food.
Yeah, food source.
Yeah, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe they like to take a dip, too.
Absolutely, yeah. Cool off a little.
Yeah, wash the fur. I mean, a lot of animals go in and get wet, no?
Well, I mean, I told you that when we were up looking at the brown bear, a.k.a. grizzlies, in Alaska. We were watching them on this little river where they were catching the salmon, and then we tracked this big one, came running through to the bay side, to the sound side, the salt water, and he dove in and he was thrashing around up to his neck in the water. And I said to the guide, like, is he fishing out here? And he said, no, he's just cooling off.
Fantastic.
They just jump in. They got that big fur coat on in the summertime. It's like the water's a lot cooler out in the Sound there. They jump in and cool off.
Well, there you go. So there's the answer to the question right there. I mean, if the big grizzly's doing it, why not a Bigfoot?
Absolutely. I never saw anything like it, and I didn't know they did it for leisure. But, our guide was like, hey, if you had that huge fur coat on, it's like 85 degrees, you'd jump in the water too. I was like,
wow, that's incredible. Yeah. See, and that's something only like you would know because you were there, or something that this guide or a hunter could share with you. Your average person has no idea a grizzly bear would go for a dip in the water.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I mean, we've all seen them, the footage of them sitting by the falls and swatting at salmon.
Yep.
But I've never seen one physically take a dunk.
Yep.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Super cool.
Yeah, so here this guy, apparently the Julia is reminiscing, or her name Julie?
Julie, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that's a little synchronicity right there. I'm just talking about a little girl named Julia.
Exactly.
And a listener writes in named Julie.
Yep. Super cool.
Anyway, so she's recollecting for us her brother's story, not her own.
No, her brother, yeah.
Yeah,
in Wyoming, too. She's in Oklahoma.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, really interesting.
Very
wow,
cool.
And I'm sure Wyoming has plenty of Bigfoot creatures walking around up there.
Very rural place. I've spent some time out there, and boy, not many people at all in that square state.
Yeah, Wow, that's just incredible. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, and ask your brother if you see him to contact us and maybe fill in some of the details as to what he saw and exactly when it happened and how it all came to be. We'd be really interested in speaking with him.
We definitely need him to write in.
Okay, what else you got?
Cool. All right, so we're going from Oklahoma to Alabama to Lester in Alabama. Roll Tide. He says, I spent a fair amount of time actually looking for boogers in Bama and Arkansas.
Wow.
We have had some interesting experiences, mostly hearing branches break, grunting, and some chatter. It's just as you wrote in your books, like Russian or Chinese, indiscernible. All of our experiences have been in the dark, and aside from shadows, nothing full on as yet. Wow. We'll keep at it, and you guys as well. Regards, Lester.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, and I was just saying, I think a few weeks back, that I don't know what all of this nighttime business is in regards to the Bigfoot, because most of the encounters that I've put to paper have been daytime, and including what Julie just told her about her brother. I'm sure he didn't see this Bigfoot walking down the river in the nighttime. He couldn't have seen it.
No, you wouldn't see it, exactly.
But here's Lester out with some of the good old boys down there in Bama and Arkansas going around at night, which seems to be the preferred methodology with a lot of Bigfoot people. And the problem being, he's hearing branches crack. He's hearing some indiscernible talking or language, as he's calling it.
Yep.
And yet they can't see anything because it's dark. So, I don't... Like, where do people think these Bigfoot go during the day that they're only out at night?
I agree.
It's not like they're driving an Uber during the day and they put on
they're
a
making
Bigfoot
airport
suit.
Runs.
Yeah. Hey, where you going? Sit in the back. Shut up. No smoking. Don't mess my car up.
Get your own bag.
What?
Give me 5 stars or else.
Oh, that is comical, man.
All right.
Yeah,
So we're doing all of the A states. We're going from Alabama to the other end to Alaska.
Wow.
This is from Bruce in northern Alaska. He writes, fantastic show. I ran across some prints leading up and away from what appeared to be a kill site some years ago. I didn't measure them, but I would say that they were between 16 and 20 inches long. Not a speck of evidence was left other than the blood when I found them, so I don't know what was taken. The area I was in was wide open for miles, and I guess they must walk through here out in the open at times. Very interesting indeed. Thanks for all you do.
What do you make of that,
Well,
Kev?
I mean, there's just no people up there, right? I mean, it's Alaska, let alone northern Alaska. I mean, I talked about it in an episode, probably 6-7 podcasts ago, where that statistic that I saw when I was heading up to Alaska was amazing, where they said if the population density of Manhattan in New York City was the same as the state of Alaska, I think they said there would be 25 people living in Manhattan.
Wow.
It's just there's no people up there,
Yeah.
I mean,
Now, what's your knowledge of northern Alaska? He said northern Alaska.
I mean,
What is there?
there's not much up there. From my understanding, there's some just frozen tundra, some frozen tundra oil and natural gas mining, but nothing really.
Well, and that's like that all year?
Oh, it's pretty rural up there, pretty chilly, and
You're getting up near the Arctic
you
Circle,
are,
right?
You're right in it.
Wow. So, it's just like, what the heck? If this was a Bigfoot, what the heck is this thing doing walking around up there? It's just bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you can have the Yeti in the Himalayas, you can definitely have Bigfoot walking around up there, though.
Yeah, and let's face it, no offense to anybody. I mean, there are people that live in these remote locations where it's freaking bitter cold and nasty most of the year.
No doubt about it. It's their
And,
land. I mean, a lot of people up in a place like that, that's the land they know. That's where they're from.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, Kev. It's what I know and where my heart is, and
Exactly.
here I will stay.
Exactly.
It's difficult, for us to wrap our mind around that.
Yeah.
But I suppose a Bigfoot creature that was acclimated to that area, maybe numbers of them that hadn't moved on. I mean, look, you got polar bears, right?
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah, a polar bear is not saying, I'm going to go to freaking Alabama and live.
Even if he could get a flight.
By the way, when you were in Alaska, did they talk at all about any polar bears coming where these grizzlies were in Alaska, or any interbreeding of anything like that?
No, we were on the Kenai Peninsula, which is not like the Arctic Circle, not the frozen tundra. It's kind of a beautiful place. I mean, I've been looking at the weather now. It's pretty cold and pretty nasty, and some good snow, looking at some of the webcams of places we went, but not really polar bear country.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just really, the whole phenomena is just baffling to me. There's just no figuring out. All we can do is kind of stand on the outside and look in and then continue to talk about what it is that's presented. You know?
I mean, we were in brown bear country, which again, south of Alaska, we would call a grizzly. But the brown bears basically up there, they eat salmon all day long because there's just, more salmon than people. And they just feast, and then they go to sleep for the whole winter.
Wow,
Come
what an
back out
existence.
again for the next salmon run. Not a bad gig,
Incredible.
really.
Yeah, if you can get it. I don't know if you can get into the grizzly bear union that easily.
It's not that easy.
I heard you got to fight one of them to get in.
All
man,
right.
that's
Well, we
great
got the
stuff.
last letter, Bill, and this one's going to go out with a bang. It's
Okay.
from Bulldog Bobby.
Bulldog Bobby.
Bulldog Bobby. He says, I liked your show, in particular about the canyon. He says, I believe I saw a Bigfoot walking on the rim once, but the distance was too great and it was coming in and out of view. To a skeptic, this could be anything, but to me, it was Bigfoot. Thanks, Bulldog Bobby. Hey, Bobby, I hope you don't mind me giving away your whole name there as Bulldog Bobby.
Yeah, Bulldog Bobby, I want you to send me in a picture of your mug. I want to see what Bulldog Bobby looks like.
He could be a true Arizona tough guy. You know, they got him out there for sure.
Yeah, you know, and I guess you think he's talking about that, what was it, Kim, the Mangahalan Rim?
Exactly, in Arizona. I'm sure that's what he's talking about. I mean, when you say the canyon, that's the canyon, right? I mean,
yeah, there is only one canyon. Yeah. You know, it's like Popeye used to have the tattoo on his bicep that said Big Mo. Remember that he used to drop a can of spinach, burning it open with his pipe? And then after he ate the spinach, the tattoo on his arm with the barrels on the battleship's gun would start pumping shells.
Start firing. I forgot about it.
Yeah, boom, 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 boom.
You're absolutely right.
Oh, man, that stuff was great. Yeah, well, so here you go. Here you have confirmation of a story in a particular area of another person that saw something in that area.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And of course, I mean, he puts it well. Bulldog Bobby puts it well. He says, to the skeptic, this could be anything. But to me, it was a Bigfoot.
Right. You know, and we don't know much about Bulldog, but you got to assume he's an outdoorsman. What is anybody doing out there? You know, I don't know. It doesn't sound like he was on the weekend. He's an accountant, and he decided to go marching into the canyon. You know, I'm not buying that. It's, you know, Bulldog Bobby's hedge fund. And he puts on his L beans and starts marching into the canyon, you know.
All right, not likely.
Not likely. Well, that is fantastic. And folks, you know, once again, we'd like to encourage you to go to our webpage, BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. Hit the contact link. If you've seen something, say something. And what else, Kev? What else are we going to say?
Also, thank you for all the kind reviews. We've been getting some great reviews. So, you know, if you haven't left a kind review, go to your favorite podcast player and, you know, leave us 5 stars and some great comments of what you like about the show.
Yeah, and if you've left a bad review, leave me your address.
We'll send a Rougaroo your way.
Well, folks, that's the end of another fantastic podcast. And remember, always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.